Hello, everyone. Welcome to Masters of Data. I'm Adam White, Senior Director of Technical Marketing at Sumo Logic, and I have with me Zoe Hawkins and David Gervin. Hello, friends.
Hello,
Good to see you all.
hello. Good to see you as always.
The audience won't know, but we were just in Las Vegas with each other last week, and that was fun. It was good to see your faces in person, as
It was
always.
great to be together with feet and legs and not just squares on a
Not
screen, you
just,
know.
yeah, not just this
I,
view.
I left my feet at home, so
You wish you did. There was a lot of walking. Um, so this very day, this podcast, we're talking about how to become a security practitioner, which is something we hear kind of a good bit. I mean, people looking to maybe pivot careers and get into something. I always think it's an interesting one because security is just kind of that thing that like sounds cool and flashy. And Zoe, we were talking about, television shows and movies that kind of make it this like mysterious hacker persona kind of thing, and some of that's true in real life, and some of it you kind of have to, work your way up to those levels of prestige,
Of
but
coolness. I'm not going to
yeah,
be
of
Angelina
coolness.
Jolie in Hackers right immediately with that pretend, like, I don't know what it was, building stacks. Like the way they visualized hacking was very 90s. But one day I will be that cool,
One
I'm
day,
sure. Yeah.
one day. Yeah. But part of the question or discussion is like, how do you transition from other technical or maybe non-technical roles? Like, is that possible to go from, an adjacent job or kind of discipline into being a security practitioner? Just talking through some of the kind of practical elements of that. So, David, I know you've done some pivoting and seen some pivoting in your life. I'm sure you have some good takes on this,
yeah.
or
I mean, I
takes at least.
yeah,
Bad takes.
I don't know if anything I say is good. Um, I pivoted from being a welder to being an AppSec manager, architect, whatever you want to call it, and then I helped with hiring for years and kind of saw people come from all different aspects. The AppSec world's a little different because you
Mhm.
kind of already have to have some technical skills. I feel like you can walk into SOC or GRC a little easier. AppSec, most of the people we would pull in that weren't just full bore security nerds were just DevSecOps, our developers that saw the security side and they're like, either like, I think that's cool, or I want to make a little more money, or whatever. And then they
Yeah.
could kind of transition a lot easier than some, because they're really useful if they have 5 or 10 years of development. Because you kind of start them helping build tools inside, and then you also teach them the security side and how to use the offensive tools and all that kind of stuff.
I feel
But
Yeah.
like, first of all, I just have to say that as a welder, now it makes sense why you think it's all about like connecting people and building bridges. Like this is all coming full circle for me. Um, but also, I mean, I do think that's something like we hear about the whole shift left idea, right? Like I know you hate it, David. But like all things that you hate. Like it's interesting in the sense of like if we shift left enough, then developers are more security aware, are more security conscious, and then yeah, it makes sense that then they can move right, shift left, move right. I don't know into something more like a security role, if that's the direction they want to move in their career.
yeah, and I think the other kind of path in is, I've mentored quite a few people in, and it's not easy getting your first job in security. So don't, if anybody tells you you're going to take a course and get in a job, or you're going to have a degree and get a job, just tell them that they're lying. It's a lot of work. And it's usually your first ones through personal connections. So, conferences, all that kind of stuff. But some of the people I brought in the other spaces, everybody wanted to be a pen tester for the last 7 years or something, and I would just immediately tell them no if they asked me to mentor them into that. It was just too hard to get in.
That's a
Um,
deep that's a deep field. Like you have to have some pretty specific knowledge to
and
do
it's
that.
like you can learn it all in like there is a path in, but it's overcrowded. So
Mm.
it's just there's not as many openings, and
You have to pen test your way into pen testing.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. The problem is like it sounds really bad, but the burnout rate isn't as high. So the jobs don't open up as much. And like
People are
there,
happy there, so they stay.
there's always a path into the sock, especially at a bad company, because they're going to run you into the ground. And yeah, I think it's easier because of the kind of stages. I'd always tell people like it's easier to go SOC or GRC in the beginning.
Mm.
You can go out and take practical certs. I'll go on my rant about how most certs are stupid here in a second, but you can go take practical certs like at Sumo, and you can learn how to use a tool or our competitors. And those certs are actually useful. Like if I'm hiring someone, I look at that, I'm like, oh, they can use a tool. I can put them in front of this tool 8 hours a day, and they are producing something, either safety or more vulnerabilities in my case, if I hired them probably, or something along those lines. But and then GRC, they can read ISO, they can read NIST, they can start learning how to map things, you know. So you can kind of get an entry level path a little faster. There's room for juniors. Like the juniors on an AppSec team were like, I have 7 years of development experience. And you're like, oh, welcome to AppSec. Um, so I think you kind of have to figure something out like that. And there is room for junior pen testers, 100%. Like doing all the OSINT, doing all that kind of stuff in the beginning, but it's just a harder group. It's a smaller group of people in general, and it's a harder place to get a spot.
Yeah.
And I have to wonder, like, I think it also depends, like, obviously, all of my inspiration from trashy movies is like the red team side, right? Like, I want to pretend to be a hacker. I want to think like a criminal, like all of that sort of things. Like, how would I exploit this? How would I get in? How would I cause some trouble? Versus someone who maybe is more on that, like Adam, what you were describing earlier. Like, they want to seem like the good guy, or they want to, it seems cool to transition into security to be like a blue team. Like, I'm going to keep my company secure. I'm going to keep this organization safe. All of that. Like, depends if you want to be the hero or the villain. I don't know, like in this, but like
Blue team
still
is
the
easier to
hero.
explain
Yeah.
to your parents, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a really big space, and it's probably not accurate to break it down like I always do, but I break it down into breakers and builders. And
Mm.
you are naturally adapted to one of those. Most blue team guys are going to be builders. A lot of AppSec guys are going to be builders too. Um, I wasn't. Like I started learning how to code because I broke my back, and I was at a security conference in Hawaii that my friend was putting on, and they got me a seat at the secure coding workshop so I could like up my resume. And they had a capture the flag at the end that used Burp Suite. And like I said, I'm a criminal. Like my brain was like, I'm so happy right now. And like I got a whole bunch of points, and then I figured out how to steal everybody else's points on the scoreboard. So I just made mine say 9999 and everybody else's say zero. And they were like, "Good job, Dave." And I was like, "I love this. Can I do this?" And
My mind is so satisfied right now.
So
yeah,
you
and I had
broke
a
your back and then you broke some code. I see how this goes.
yeah, and I
Yeah.
had a bunch of
Yeah.
management experience. So I walked on as a security manager
Mm.
for that was for 1Password back in the day.
But this
So
is an important pivot, Adam. Like we were saying this earlier, like if I'm a director, if I'm a manager, can I just pivot and stay at that level, or do we need to adjust those kinds of things? What do you think, Adam?
I think that I think that you can it's probably going to be a pretty specific person that's able to do that. You know,
Mm.
just some like other experience that kind of amounts to, you know, that level of a person in the business. More often than not, I think you're probably going to have to jump down a level and maybe do some more of the practitioner stuff day in and day out. I guess it depends on the size of the business and, you know, all of those kinds of things. If you go into a smaller business, you might have more latitude because they're just like, yeah, the more hats you can wear, the better, you know. But if you go into a big, especially really big organization, I think they're going to be like, you need more practical experience before you can kind of come back up the ladder, quote unquote.
Mm.
That's my take, but yeah,
The
I it's interesting for sure.
the product management side is always useful. So like you could be a
Yeah.
product manager, not like a product builder, but like a like team management, task management type of product manager, you know? Like I run the scrums and I do all this and I do We have a couple of people at our company that are just monsters with that kind of stuff. They organize everybody's crap. Those people are useful everywhere. You know what I mean? Like you can put them on a security team and have them start learning about the security projects, and they're useful that day. So not everybody on the security teams is a hacker or a builder, I guess. So my explanation earlier was stupid. Uh, but yeah, I think it is hard. It's really hard to go lateral with this because security is its own monster, and there's a lot of ego, and there's a lot of deep knowledge, and there's a lot of gatekeeping, unfortunately.
What about, on the like practical side, I'm thinking about building a portfolio or like side project kind of stuff. I mean, those feel like avenues into some of this where you can either show a deep interest at like, hey, this is how I spend my hobby time, quote unquote. And so I've been able to amass a pretty, good knowledge base about this, or hey, I've been working on something, on the side, be it a lab environment or, vibe coding or whatever the case may be. Like I think those things they at least show a level of commitment and interest that is pretty tangible for someone who's looking at you as a potential person who's looking to make a pivot. Like those feel very tangible.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things there. The first one is like if you have enough initiative to have a side project, I'll actually look at you because security is this abyss. It's never ending. You have to be like a self-starter. You got to get things going. The other thing is like at least when I hire, I don't even look at people's education because I don't have one. So like I've had people, be like, "Oh, I got a master's in cybersecurity." I'm like, great. I'm sure that's great for like the when you want to be a CISO later and you're trying to like pitch to boards that don't know anything about security. But from on the practitioner level, that and then like the lower security things, like they teach you how to, like you said earlier, they teach you how to speak the lingo, but they're not really useful. To me, if I'm going to look for any sort of credentials, it's going to be for tooling. Like they know how
Mhm.
to use Burp Suite, or they know how to use Sumo Logic, or they know how to use, Sneak, or one of those things. And the other side is going to be what are they built or broken? Maybe they're not a builder. They just hate building, but they have like a hack the box score that's insane. Like that person has put time in, right? Like um
Yeah.
or they have like there's a few pen testing. There's actually a few now. It only used to be one, but there's a few pen testing certs that are really hard to get, and that really shows like, okay, someone put the time in to do this. Because the on-the-job training thing doesn't happen anymore. I hate to break it to everybody. You need to
Yeah.
do it on your side hustle.
And I guess this is the thing that I think about, like, you know, coming up in kind of the more soft skills, I'll say, which is a term I hate. But coming up on like the more soft skills kind of education and background and all of that, I typically would classify myself as like a non-technical person. Um, I didn't learn how to code, like that wasn't part of my background, anything like that. But like I am deeply a critical thinker. I understand how technology works. Like I'm into super techie, gamey kind of stuff. So like I think the line that is really challenging for a lot of people is like, can I be a security person if I'm not technical? And it's like, well, what does technical even mean right now? Like, I could go to
Yeah.
Claude and be like, help me build an agent, and Claude and I could code it together. And like, theoretically, I could say exactly what I want, what the outcomes are, how I want to test it, what I'm looking for. I could be really specific in my language about what I'm looking for, but I don't necessarily have to learn how to write a line of code.
To your point, Zoe, like it's an interesting maybe converging lines of like the better AI gets, the better people need to be from like a
Mm,
critical thinking and reasoning standpoint, because essentially AI is offloading, quote unquote, a lot of that technical expertise. Like it already knows what coding best practices are. If you feed it good prompts, good prompt engineering in, you're going to get better results out. But the like quantify that human in the loop kind of factor and how good, quote unquote, the people have to be from a critical thinking perspective, that line is moving up just as fast as the AI line, I believe. And so you don't probably have to be the most technical, but you have to be a really good thinker.
The irony is, as AI is adopted, they're seeing a reduction in critical thinking skills across the board.
Yeah, our
Yeah.
brains are
And that's the thing that's
atrophying, but
actually,
whatevs.
I would say, like, my idea of technical is very different from other people's. I think now it's shifted quite a bit. I used to work with a bunch of geniuses, like especially at Red Canary, like Matt Graber, who has
Notice how
probably
he said used to, Zoe.
Used to, clearly not
Yeah.
anymore. Not in
I'm,
this,
Yeah.
I don't,
not
I'm in
in this
marketing now. You
call.
guys are geniuses of manipulating the world. They were geniuses of like hacking. And those kind of guys, though, like they just do crazy stuff. Like they understand system and BIOS and stuff on a deeper level than I'll ever understand it. Um, but having the ability to think like that is kind of evening everything out now. I've never been the best at anything. Like, I mean, I was never the best at writing code. Like, my scripts always suck. I was never, I was a front end dev in the beginning with React. Like, so I was never some deep technical guy. Um, but I've always been very good at like finding holes in things. And that's kind of where it shines. And that's where AI is kind of making this very interesting. Oh no, you know how to think correctly. I can fill in all your gaps. And I'm really curious to see where it goes because right now, if you had the correct um, thinking skill or mentality or whatever you want to say, you could sit down and spend some time becoming technical with agentic building, and you could build whatever you wanted. Like I mean, you could build a AI pen testing tool, and then you can run it in your own lab. If you have the architectural knowledge to understand how the things work, even if you need to ask questions still, but you really understand how things work, then you can understand how to break them. And understanding how to break them is kind of the important part.
Well, and I think that's just it. Like the old career path is, if we imagine a career ladder or whatever, shoots and ladders, the whole journey is weird now. But it used to be like go be an engineer, go be a developer for 4, 5, 6, 7 years. Do that, get good at code, get good, whatever that looks like. And then you can become an AppSec engineer, whatever it is. Or you could become a people manager, like that whole thing of like, what is the path you can take was very kind of regimented. Now I feel like we're all rock climbers. Like it's all just like, get your way where you want to be. There's so many different handholds. There's so many different ways that you could traverse because it's like, oh, you're interested in security and you don't have that background. Like you say, you could, not just take a course, but also like really just experiment and play with the AI that's out there and kind of fill in any of those missing gaps while your thinking is still really solid.
Hello,
Yeah, I
AI.
mean,
Teach me how to be a security.
Yes, make me
Yeah.
Angelina Jolie in
Yeah,
hackers. What do I need to do?
right.
Build me
Yeah.
an action
Instructions
plan.
unclear. Yeah.
Yes. Get a
yeah,
new
I think
haircut. No.
that old school, like in the other side of the house was you were IT guy, help desk first, IT guy, then sysadmin, and then you moved into like running SIEM stuff, and then everything changed, and now it's all cloud based and most of it's automated, and it is confusing, like how to get in. I think it still comes down to like building skills that help you personally show yourself and then networking. So like the few people I've mentored, I've only mentored like 8 people, but the ones that I have mentored, the one thing I made them all do is go to Toastmasters. You
Hmm.
know what that is? It's like where all the real
Yeah.
estate bros go to like learn how to talk in public.
Learn how to speak in public. I love
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
And that's what made my career, I think. I mean, I'm a good public speaker, and that's probably one of the only things I'm good at. And I do it in front of 1,000, 1,500 people, and I don't get nervous and I have fun and I don't know, it kind of helped me tremendously. So if they can speak to the board or to the executives well, and then they find something cool they did in their job and they can speak to their community well, now you have 1,500 people in that talk that might offer you a job later.
My
So
soft skills, my comeuppance,
Yeah.
my side of the house is once more. the queen of content reigns
There.
supreme. But yeah, no, I think it is that thing. Like as technical and non-technical skills are kind of all coming together, like everybody has to be able to use, you know, the way it was. I always come back to this, like the way it was where everybody has to know how to use a computer, everybody has to know how to use the internet, whatever that means to
The
your roles.
series of
The
tubes.
internet,
Yeah.
a series of tubes, yeah.
Fighting on Facebook.
Yeah. Whatever that means for you and your career, like now AI is kind of that next step. Everybody's going to have to learn how to use it. But then by learning that, potentially there's so much more room for career pivots or adjustments because, if you get comfy with Claude or, ChatGPT or whatever you're using, whatever tooling you're using, at a certain point, you're like, okay, help me learn this next new skill that I'm curious about. And it makes those
Yeah.
kinds of pivots easier.
Or you don't even ask to help it learn. Like one of the things I talked about our SKO is role bleed and
Mm.
trying to get all of our technical teams to understand like what's going to happen. And I'm doing the futurist thing again. This is going to
Oh, I
happen.
love it.
If you're using agents and your IDE and you're connecting to all these MCPs, you used to be like, I'm a detection engineer. I use Terraform, I use GitHub, and I use Sumo Logic, and I write rules for my company, and I look at threat stuff, and that's what I do. Not anymore. Now you're a developer, you're doing all this other stuff because you have the ability to do it all from one space in your workflow. And sometimes even the agents are like suggesting things to you, which is a wild concept when you've been like working on something. It's like, hey, if you built this little script, you could automate this for the rest of the security team. You're like, okay, and now you're a builder. It's like so I think we all need to realize that like you're going to start seeing, I mean, there's always been technical GRC people, and I know they're out there like punching the air right now if I wouldn't have said that. But now every GRC person's technical that can use agents,
Yeah.
right? They can go in there and implement some of those controls very easily into, their GitHub using the agent to take the control from the policy they built that they copy and paste it in there. The role bleed is going to be crazy.
So, moral of the story is if you are looking to pivot to become a security practitioner, all you need is a good mind and initiative and build a side project or a lab and show yourself to be worthy and you're on the
And
right path.
network and
Yeah, and
network
Network.
with
network,
people.
network. That's right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And meet 5 million people and put out 3,000 job, interviews and you'll get
People too, like I'll just say I've done a lot of pivoting in my career. I've worked all across like every aspect of a software company. And I have found people in my network and people that you work with to be very happy to like help you kind of move around in a business because one, it's good for the business. Like if you're bringing knowledge from one aspect of a business to the other, that's intrinsically useful. So people are very happy to help you. I would not look at it as like shying away from asking for help because people are going to think you're discontent. I think it's actually the opposite. I think they'll see you as looking to better yourself, better the business, further your career. And that's something everyone can identify with. So that networking point, Zoe, is spot on. And I think is one of the most useful things you can do.
And I think networking, just as a word, as the word person, great language there, Zoe. But as someone who really cares about language, like networking is one of my least favorite words because it sounds really cold and gross, and like you're just like handing out business cards at a gross happy hour.
Yeah.
Like if someone asked me if I want to go to a networking event, the answer is like absolutely not. If someone asks me if I want to meet cool people doing interesting things, hell yeah, like I'm in. And so I think it's almost like reframing what networking is it's really just about meeting people whose interests align with yours, that you're like curious to meet, who seem interesting or cool, and how you can help each other
Yeah.
versus some weird glad handing thing that I think we were all taught it is.
That happens in a terrible hotel conference room. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
don't want that.
We
I
don't want
mean,
that.
the reality is other teams are a lot easier to social engineer. And I mean, I'm on the freaking marketing team. Like how did that happen? So, I think there is a lot of space for lateral movement, either into security or out of it. I think everything's going to get a lot different in the next year anyways. So,
Yeah. Exciting times. Well, this has been a fun conversation as always. Thank you, Zoe. Thanks, David. And thank you all for joining and watching, listening, Masters of Data. We'll see you on the next episode.